Well, what's the economic impact of curiosity? I want some facts on that. And that's exactly the title of the next keynote. Economic impact of curiosity, the medical excellence and the innovation head of Sanofi. Here is Astrid Heide Petersen. Welcome on stage, Astrid.
Thank you very much for inviting me here. It's really an honor to be the first one speaking about it and being the one on out. So I am Astrid Petersen, come from Sanofi, and what is Sanofi? Several people have asked me. Sanofi is a big pharmaceutical company. It's a global company that is especially specializing in the area of inflammation and immunology at the moment. So, global pharmaceutical company. I had the pleasure of spending time during my PhD in Graz, so I have a special heart for Graz in the area. And I really love coming back, and I love the innovation that I see here. I love the creativity, and I love to see how it's actually carried out. So I'm looking very much forward to sharing a bit with you today. So I have, as a background a little bit, so I'm from the medical side of things. I have a PhD in medicine, on a background on a technical level, and also a Master of Science. So, what does that have to do with curiosity? So just for the sake of good order, conflicts of interest, I am an employee of Sanofi, pharmaceutical company. I was an employee of Leo Pharma and Novo Nordisk. I hold shares in Novo Nordisk, and I'm presenting my personal views today. So, afterwards, also do feel free to come to me, and I'll be here during the whole day. The important thing is to never stop questioning. So this is a quote by Albert Einstein. And the interesting thing about curiosity is that it's a driver. It's one of the strongest forces that we have for driving everything in us internally as human beings. So curiosity is, for small children, the thing that actually develop them to learn, to walk, to talk, to engage. And here, even as adults, those are the ones that are driving us to try out new things, develop and learn. So very, very strong driving force. And there I just want to give you one inspiration and call for action. Today you'll get a lot of different input and sparks in. My encouragement will be that you take two things, two micro actions, you write them down during the day. What are you going to do when you get home? Can be as little as possible, but just two, and make it concrete. That will be my encouragement to you. So, all of you know this. There's a lot of impact of curiosity. The number of inventions, electricity, Google have done a lot on innovation as well. Post-its, internet, Tesla, and so on. What is common for most of these is that there is a driver, there's an urge to really understand something new, get to something new. But there's also the situation that if you have time and opportunities, you will be more creative. And some of these companies actually have in their plans set time aside, 15%, 20% of the time, to really ensure that there's time for innovation. That's one inspirational factor. But I'll come with a case from the pharmaceutical industry, and I'm sure that most of you know it. And while I'm just flipping through this one, you can start thinking, which one is it? So this is the curve. This is the market cap curve. It's a nice market cap development. That is an odd molecule, isn't it? This is the very persistent and curious lady named Lotte Bjerre Knudsen. Anyone knowing her? Yeah, you do? This is another very persistent, very curious and innovative guy, Mads Krogsgaard Thomsen. And it's the company Novo Nordisk. It's a product called Ozempic and Wegovy, based on the compound called semaglutide. So most of you, I'm sure, have heard about either of these products. And with these products, Novo Nordisk is now the #1 largest value company in Europe. And I just, for the sake of completeness, I just want to flag that Eli Lilly has gone through a similar development in market cap due to the development of a similar product in the area. So it's a drug class called glucagon-like peptide, GLP-1 incretin class. So this is the whole background for leading to a wild economic increase for two companies. What we'll focus on today is Novo Nordisk. This is Mads Krogsgaard. Mads Krogsgaard is the most innovative and smart guy I have ever met in my life. He was for almost 30 years the executive president, scientific chief officer, head of R&D of Novo Nordisk. He was looking like a wild nerd, really the nerdy professor type, but I never met one so smart, innovative, and able to carry things through. And he had this dream that the GLP-1 class would be the #1 drug class, and actually it is more or less there today. So with this, you have basically all, I'm sure many of you have seen these headlines, Wegovy, weight loss, and so on. In the whole process, the whole thing about type 2 diabetes was forgotten, but there are headlines everywhere, US, Europe, Austria, Germany, everywhere. This has been a tremendous success and is a tremendous economical success for the company, where they, due to the right decisions, have really been showing strong development in value. A huge economical impact, and as you can see by the blue arrows, by the time of the approvals of these transformational products, it's really taken off. And I can just, why are these products so transformational? They have gone directly into an unmet need in the market. At this point in time, there was no treatment really that is efficient for people that are obese or overweight with heart conditions or similar. So for the first time, there was suddenly products that were helping people and really making a difference, and that is the reason for this. Wow, that's great. How difficult can it be? But back in the days, it was not that simple. So we know now that it's a huge success. We know now that it's amazing and it's financially really, so for Denmark as a country, we are depending on Novo Nordisk now. For good and for worse. It's amazing. But there was a lot of headwind back in the days. So just go one step back, because a little bit on the medicinal product, or the molecule itself, glucagon-like peptide is one of the molecules that are released in connection to a meal. When you eat, you have a number of hormones that are released. You have insulin, amylin, glucagon-like peptide, and others. They work in concert to ensure they have the right level of insulin, the right level of what you're eating, and it regulates your blood sugar, so the blood sugar stays stable. This is one factor in this. It is so that when this is then working on different receptors all over the body, it's leading to a regulation of your blood sugar, of your appetite, and a lot of other things. But those are the things that does that you are eating what you should be eating, you are not gaining weight, and that you are having the blood sugar you should be having. This is in the normal person. In people with type 2 diabetes, this is not always the case. And what is the difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes? Type 1 diabetes is the one where you have an auto-response, where you are eating up your cells that are producing insulin, so you need to have insulin given. Type 2 diabetes, simplified, is You do have enough insulin, at least in the beginning, but your tissue is not ready to take it in, so you need something else. You have a dysregulated glucose homeostasis, so controlling in general. So there are a lot of things. GLP-1 is only working when you have blood sugar in your bloodstream. So that's why you're not going to have a too low blood sugar when you're getting GLP-1. So that was a little bit on the medical side of this, but that's important to understand why this is a success in this group. So GLP-1 was also seen, this is working, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, regulating, decreasing the blood sugar. But there's one problem. It takes 1 to 2 minutes and it's out of the body. It's broken down by peptidases, so cutters, and then it's out. So what then? So if you want to develop this, you then need to find a way for this to stay in the body. And this is where Lotte Bjerre comes in. So GLP-1, so Novo Nordisk is a company that has traditionally worked with diabetes, and just like Robert was sharing, and here Lotte comes in. So they had one area that was insulins, then we experimented with GLP-1, and Lotte Bjerre, she was working in this field, company was not too interested, she went on maternity leave, and she come back, and gone was her team. So she came back, and then at that point in time, Mads Kolsgaard, these are some older photos, but they're very well showing him, they come back and say, okay, no team, no nothing, and they agreed this is such a potential that why don't we find a solution? So she was given 1 year. And they went to the CEO, and they said, we need money for this, and said, you're not getting any money. This is altogether going too slow. So these two people are the reason we have this success today, and we have these products available from Novo Nordisk. Many times on that way, there was a decision to be taken. Do we stop or do we continue? And coming back to the 1990s, that was when they started with the formulation. In 1997, they had the first protected molecule that could stay in the body for 24 hours. Then you can start working with it. Then it has to be tested in healthy volunteers, just like you were describing. And what happened? They vomited like crazy. They were so sick. Oh my God. Is this a drug thing? Is it a dose thing? What is it? And that's development. So always is testing out in healthy volunteers and in people in the right patient group. And in this case, this all happened, and they continued. Then they got the lab results. Sorry. The rodents showed tumors. And if there's one thing we do not want to see in pharma, and we do not want to see in our animal studies, that's cancer. So a long, long period here. And data came in, they were looked at, the management was saying this is too risky, we don't want to be in this field. They kept, and very much driven by Mads Kolsgaard Thomsen and by Lotte Bjerre, they continued in this. They really said, okay, even though this is not looking right, we know that this mode of action is right. We know it's right. We know that it will change lives for people. And they continued. They adapted the studies. They adapted the doses. They tested it out again. And slowly, the data, the dose was right. The blood sugar was reduced for people with type 2 diabetes. But they were dropping weight. Usually, when people with type 2 diabetes are treated for their diabetes, they increase their weight. But suddenly it was seen that they were decreasing their weight. Is this an opportunity? Yes, it is. So they took that opportunity, started on the side of it a weight program, but going into weight management is not an easy thing. It's a high-risk thing. Liability along, thinking US, thinking obese people, thinking pharma, very, very tough. So they kept the focus. They decided to move on. At the point in time where the first data came up, I was in the company, and I was part and listened to many of these discussions about do we dare to move on or not. They decided to move on. So, in 2010, the first compound, liraglutide, was approved for type 2 diabetes mellitus. They continued with the development because once every day is maybe doable, but it's not so attractive, especially if you go into the field of obesity treatment. So they now developed and was developing a molecule that could last longer. And semaglutide was then the molecule that they came out with that is lasting 1 week. But if you're developing a molecule that's lasting 1 week, if there are severe side effects, it's still lasting 1 week. So it's not just an easy thing. So you always have to have the right balance between your benefit and your adverse reactions. But they came out, and you know what? It was a modest success. They did not really have a lot of extra income, and it was a diabetes insulin products that was at this time the financial income source. It was not liraglutide. But they continued, and then Ozempic came on the market for type 2 diabetes, and then Wegovy came for obesity, and that is when it really, really took off. So, had it not been for these two persons, we would not have seen this for Novo Nordisk. And that is where the curiosity and persistence comes in, because both of them were convinced there can be a molecule made that can last long enough. Even if we are seeing things, we are sure that we can actually do it. And they continued, and along the cancer, so I just want to comment on the cancer findings, they turned out to be irrelevant. They were not found in other species. There were a lot of tests done, and it turned out it was a specific rodent thing, but that you only know afterwards. So these two people did an amazing job, and I just want to flag or highlight one thing about Mads Krogsgaard Thomsen, because he is truly amazing. He's now the CEO of the Novo Nordisk Foundation, so after almost 30 years he changed to the foundation, doing philanthropic work, working with a lot of different institutions, academias and so on, and that's why I just wanted to take this in. This was a good example. The development of the vaccines during COVID was a collaboration, and that worked because everybody wanted so. And right now, the Novo Nordisk Foundation are also now part of starting and driving an initiative to ensure that with academia, with technical solution, with industry, there is the right capacity and you can say the technology to develop vaccines at fast speed if we should get there again. So with that, I just want to encourage for all of you, foster curiosity and courage in your organizations, provide the opportunities and resources, do the due diligence, and be clear on your risk appetite. And then be sure to include a few people that are rebellious, that are not doing as they are told, but they should be brilliant, and then hold on to them and tolerate them in daily life. So thank you very much.
And thank you. Now, we have some time for Q&A, and as I said, we're using this tool called Slido. I'm going to have a look at the most popular questions, and I just want to point out, I like the way you also underlined the importance of persistence. I like that a lot because, yeah, curiosity without persistence is pointless. To keynote number 1, what would be your 2 things you note at the end of the day?
So, first of all, I'm looking forward to learning even more. But one thing I already from a conversation this morning is noting down, I need to think even more about how to implement AI in daily work. So that's one thing. The other one I did already note down, but maybe I will change it during the day. That is the inspirational part of bringing different industries, different mindsets together, and thereby creating something new.
Great. Thanks for that answer. What strategies could you implement in your own environment to further foster curiosity and innovation?
Yes, this is a very good question because it's so easy to say, right? I would say I have tried really with my management or upper management to talk to I would really like to take out 20%. So we would allocate 1 day a week to whatever. Do I need to say I'm not successful? We're not there yet, but what we have done, which is shown really, really great, is that we have now meeting-free Fridays. So meeting-free Fridays means that you cannot have meetings planned in. You are still at work. Don't misunderstand. You're still at work, but you don't have meetings planned in. So you can spend the time on training, on having ad hoc meetings and so on, and it's helped a lot. So that's the feedback from people.
Just a quick question on the 20%. Is it performance-based? That's whoever's deciding says, look, the performance, the bonuses and so on?
No, this is the interesting thing, because I do think performance will be the same or even more or better. No, it's more about, no, this is too scary, because then we are reducing our working force with 20%. I don't agree.
Understood. I've had that debate a lot as well on your side. How important is it to create space for autonomous and passionate employees in your company, as mentioned in the presentation?
Yes. Oh, this is so difficult, because you know afterwards that it's so important to have these people and tolerate them. But you know also that if you have probably some of you have somebody in mind, if you have people that are too disruptive in an organization, it can also have a negative impact. So yes, you should tolerate, but you should also be careful who you tolerate.
And that brings us to the next question, where someone says, what do you mean by tolerate them in daily life? I think you were referring to the brilliant people.
Exactly, yes. What do I mean by that? That is that you accept that they are not following the company norm. And that is dangerous, because that is then setting an example for others. So be careful what you're nourishing. If it's a creative mindset and it's positive, it's a good inspirator. But if it's a negative, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that because I'm too brilliant, that's not the right thing. So you need to be careful and pick it out wisely.
Nicely put. How do you create passion?
How do we create passion? First of all, I think when we are hiring people, I think it's important that we are learning what is their motivation. And when people are taking up a new job, they need to understand what they are going to work with, and they need to be driven by an internal passion for what they're going to do. So that's the first thing, that's a framing. Then within the job, you need to ensure that people are allowed to be part of something that is driving them. That can be in smaller parts. If you have an employee that really loves, in my case, that really loves about reading new science from different areas, maybe you can then challenge this person to read about something and present it at a town hall meeting or something. It's about finding the things that are triggering.
Thank you very much, Astrid Heide Petersen. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, it's very important that it's on. I'm sorry about that. And thank you for engaging so strongly with Slido. And there you see, like, the earlier you ask the question, the higher the chances I actually get to ask it. So that was the economic impact of curiosity. And again, of course, 61% of you said networking is important. So you can further discuss all of these questions at a later point in time.